open session on the November 7th continued special meeting of McMinnville Water and Light Commission at 5:02 p.m. And we are now going to discuss the general manager's salary recommendation.
And are we also discussing the 25 goals, or will that be, is that part of this discussion, today's discussion, or?
It can be part of the discussion you have today, or you can, I suppose you can leave it to have for Commissioner Tate to have with John.
Do you have a preference, Kathy?
I'm sorry, can you repeat?
Oh, I'm sorry, when they mentioned that we're gonna be discussing the salary. And I asked the question if we were also going to be discussing the 25 goals, the 2025 goals, and he said we can, or we can leave that for your discussion with John.
So I guess my response to that would be that Sam sent out a document that summarized, I think that Marcy captured and Sam captured the goals that we talked about in our last meeting. And I guess the question is that adequate for presenting to John, or as a commission, do we want to spend some more time developing those and fleshing them out? And I don't think it has to be at this meeting, but
So I think that since, as I understand it, we didn't really tell John that we wanted his goals to be other than what they've been in the past.
right.
I think it would be most effective and really respectful to you and to him if the commission asked you to talk to him, maybe came up with some revised ones, and then we can discuss that at the next meeting. I think it's premature right now.
I'm fine with that. I mean, I do feel like John is getting a new directive from us that he hasn't gotten in the past regarding preparation. And in fairness to him, he did prepare goals as he always has done. And so we do need to let him know, like, thank you for preparing these goals. They're great. They're everything we expect from you as a general manager, but, we really want to talk more about you as an individual and, what goals can you set for yourself and your professional. So yeah, I think that's fine. And, the goals don't, I mean, I might be wrong here, but I feel like that the goals don't need to be completely buttoned up and, sealed up at the same time he gets his review. I mean,
Right.
they're goals for an entire year, and we can work on this change together.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Okay.
So that will go on to salary.
Let's go to salary.
Yeah.
So Sam, can I ask
Sure.
what, and I think Marcy, the one who knows the answer, what has been the percentage raises in the organization, both union and non-union, this last year? Or what are we doing now if we're looking at people?
Right now we're doing compensation, the compensation study for January 1st.
I think Kathy's having a hard time hearing.
Oh,
Thank you.
there we go. Thank you. We're doing a compensation study right now for January 1st for the non-union. And we're looking at a COLA and then the usual merit increases that would, so what we put in the budget was 3% for the COLA. And I think we had a range in there of 3 to 5% for merit. And if I remember correctly, the union contract has a 5% increase for January 1st, I believe.
Sounds right.
Sounds right, yeah.
So
And
Marcy
yes.
I'm sorry. So, But we're going into the new year for John. I felt like before there was a comment from John, like maybe he just already knew what was coming up. Because I feel like I was thinking he was telling me from this current year, but he probably was telling me from the future year. Sorry, I'm just confused.
When would
Because
his
we've already
salary-
given, I mean, people have worked all year and everybody doesn't get a raise on January 1st, right?
So we have everyone in the company getting a COLA, well, all the non-union staff getting a COLA January 1st.
Okay, so it's not like anniversary then, it's annual.
Correct.
Okay, all right. My apologies. I confused.
Yeah, so we do any kind of a step increase or merit increase on the anniversary date individually throughout the year. So the only thing that we're doing January 1st then is the COLA.
Oh, so there's two then. Presumably, I mean, possibly there's two for everybody. One on January 1st and one on their anniversary date.
Correct. A good portion of our staff are at the top of their ranges for step increases, things like that. So,
Okay.
so for some people, they're still working through the steps and
Mm,
we'll see a merit or a step increase.
So,
Yeah.
so mostly merit is longevity steps rather, or else like in the treatment plant, if you get a new certification, then that's a different, puts you in a different level.
That puts you in a different position when you get the certification. But so for our non-unions or non-exempt staff, we have steps.
Okay,
And then for our exempt staff, we have a range.
okay,
And then for our union staff, we have a number
okay.
every year.
And if you answered Jody's question, I
Yeah.
didn't hear it.
Yeah,
When is John's raise effective?
I believe it's November 1st.
So
Yes,
it's
it's the same day as his,
so it's 2 months earlier than everybody else's.
And he's the
Yeah.
only one that's actually on a contract.
Right. Okay.
right. Right,
Thank you.
you bet.
What I remember is that, John, in the beginning of the pandemic, he didn't take a salary increase one year while we were, like, everybody was figuring the world out. But then we tried to make up for it significantly in following years. And I'm wondering how that kind of balances out in the kind of the trajectory of sorry, Kathy, I was just saying that I remember that John didn't take a salary increase, I think in the first year of the pandemic. And then we tried to make up for it in consecutive years, and I was just wondering where he is in time, like state, you know, if he had not skipped that year and we had been doing COLAs, is he more or less in line now with where he would have been, or has he exceeded that? Have we exceeded that in making up for him not taking that?
Yeah, that take a little peek at what he's had in the last few years and where the COLAs have been. I don't have it right off the top of my head. I could certainly gather that data easily.
I think that would be interesting for us to know. So if we want to just take a little pause, I would like to hear that, please.
So we would have to come back. to get
I mean,
that
I could go grab it.
Grab
I can go grab it. Should I do that? Okay,
information. Yeah, thank
yep,
you.
I'll be right back.
And Sam, while Marcy's gone, I had sort of a process question. So after we get the information we need, then we would actually talk about amounts, either percentages or dollar amounts or
Right.
both. and we would discuss that in open session. Is
Yeah,
that
you would,
correct?
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Including the car.
Right, that's part of his compensation, so.
And can I ask a question about the car allowance? Have we increased it every year or does it,
I think it's,
how is
not-
that determined?
it was determined, boy, that's another historic question. I don't know, it's been in place, I want to say it's been in place for 2 years, but it was established, I don't think it's been increased.
It was, I think it was, I remember it kind of standing out. Because I think it went from,
You may be right, I don't remember it increasing.
I don't remember it specifically, but I feel like it, Trina, are you saying no? Do you remember? Were you shaking your head? No, I thought, okay. I thought it went from 600 to
That's what
800.
I was thinking.
I remember it's at 800, or
Or
that's what I remember it's at, I should say.
Yes, it
That's-
is at 800.
I would call it being 800 as well.
And it's a car allowance is for the actual vehicle plus gas and maintenance of the vehicle. Is that correct? That number comes.
That number
It's-
encompasses
All
all
of
of
the
it.
things related to a vehicle. Okay.
So I can see,
Can you,
Fair Tate?
sorry, can Thad, can you hear? Yes, sorry, I really can hardly hear anybody talking. And I know you said my voice is really loud, but I just am really having a difficult time following any of the conversation.
Do you think it's your headset?
Yes, we might have two different things going on. It might be on your end. We're hearing you just fine.
Okay,
But our microphones have dropped off. And I know that I'm hearing everyone fine,
okay.
but it's clear that you're not. So it might be on your end, but
It
it might
probably
be-
is. It probably is.
Unfortunately, I don't know what I can do to help with that.
Yeah,
But
That's fine.
it's also possible that this is right here, the microphone, which is why I think she was struggling to hear you. So,
Said everything.
Yeah,
yeah,
and I think if we bend down to the microphone, that sounds better.
A tiny bit, but not much. I mean, it just
Oh.
isn't that. You know what? I've got a 10-year-old computer that I had to drag up here to the hospital, and I'm sure it's me. I just wanted to know if there was anything you could do. I'm like an idiot. I keep leaning my head in to see if I can hear, but
I think it's your headset. Could you try it without your headset?
there's other people here in the room, so that's why I'm not.
So that, when I talk to someone, I look at them and I don't notice what.
Think you're very nice.
For hearing me. So could you watch Kathy, please, and interrupt us if she's indicating she can't hear?
while we're in open session, I sure can.
Cause I
got
think
it.
we're gonna be in open session.
But,
Thank you.
yeah,
This nice lady said, who's in here, said that I could undo my headset, so people are here with their families, and I'm okay.
So can you hear us better now?
Mhm.
Oh. It could be.
Well, we
your
weren't talking,
mic-
now we're talking. Does that
Yeah.
help?
It could
It's-
be your.
turn my speaker-
Is
Yeah.
on low.
If I
It's-
turn my volume all the way up to like 90, I can hear you guys, but then I'm also afraid that I'm screaming in your ears.
that will affect. You can turn your volume up. We'll take care of the volume on this end.
Okay, I'm much better now,
Great.
Okay.
okay,
Super.
except for the poor people on the other.
you know, I just to try to answer the question on the car, I look back at the review from 2022 and I don't see the car allowance, and the car allowance is what I see is it first appeared last year,
That's true.
2023,
And
That's
what
true.
number was it?
and it was $800 a month.
Okay, okay.
That's true that it just appeared. I mean, that it is newer.
And where did why was there a suggestion to add the car allowance?
So my, in my past meetings with John and, the rest of the personnel committee, John has been the one that has presented his salary recommendation. And it's usually been based on, part of his recommendation is that he has, while he feels like he's been below the median, he doesn't feel right as general manager to get some very large percentage increase over what the employees are generally getting. He didn't feel comfortable with that. And so I think that there was a desire to catch up his salary base, but maybe not just by a full salary adjustment, and could there be other benefits or things that could be added to help to raise up his salary level, that wasn't just an all percentage salary. So that's
That
my,
rings a bell. It does. I'm not positive, but it rings a bell.
it was, I mean, this is my second or third year doing this, and this is the first time that I didn't come into this meeting with you or come into a meeting with a salary recommendation or salary and other benefit recommendation that came from an initial meeting with John. Like, it has been driven more by John in the past, which I don't, have a great problem with. He's a expert in his industry. He, knows what other people in his world are making. He, he knows how he wants to be represented amongst his organization. So I haven't had a problem with that. And the commission has still always had the opportunity to say yay or nay if they agreed or didn't disagree. But this is the first time we've been in this different discussion where we're saying we're going to go to John with something.
I see.
Would it be, this is not just you, Cap, this is everybody, would it be better to go back to the old way and ask you to, when you go to the review with John, get a recommendation, and then the commission could, since it needs to be done in open session, could respond? I mean, I can see lots of kind of concerns if we come up with a number and say it's substantially higher than what John comes up with, then I could see him and Marcy having trouble with staff raises, saying, well, the commission's willing to raise John this percent, why not us? And likewise, if it goes the other way, then I could see problems for the staff saying, well, John was offered this percentage and now he's getting a higher percentage. Why is that? So I would be much more comfortable knowing John's number and then working from there at the next meeting when we do that.
Well, I don't think that, in my experience anyway, I don't think it's unusual for an executive person. When I was CEO of the company, I always went, to my partners and said, this is what I've budgeted for myself this year. And certainly there can be a discussion about that. I feel a little bit badly here because Sam mentioned to me the other day that I could have, made a call to John and talked to him about that before this meeting. And I apologize that I didn't do that. I feel like John's very transparent in his thoughts around his compensation, and I'm fine to have a discussion if everyone else is comfortable with that direction versus us figuring this out on our own. I mean, we certainly can take whatever he shares with us and have a discussion around that, and as how we feel as commissioners. But yeah, I don't know. what's the consensus here? Or is there one?
Yeah, Kathy, you've been involved in this process in the conversations with John. Do you think that having him present what he would like his salary to be does that feel like that's the process that you would like to follow? I think coming up with a number makes sense for us. We've done the review, we have the data, we know where we have, I believe this is a recommendation sort of process that we're going through here. I feel comfortable
Okay,
coming up with a number, but I don't want to, you're the one that has that conversation with him. So I just want to make sure that you're comfortable.
I'm not concerned about talking to John, either either way that it goes. I mean, I feel like John is, if we present something to John and, I guess a question I would follow up with is like, if we have a discussion here and we come up with whatever a proposal or a recommendation, or if we come up with what the number is that's going to be his salary for next year, am I going to meet with him and my directive is, here's what the commission is going to pay you next year? Or am I going to him and saying, we had a meeting, here's your review, this is our recommendation, and is there an opening for him to say, well, for these reasons, I feel differently. And so is it a discussion or is it a delivery of a decision, I guess? I would ask as the person who's going to meet with him.
I mean, the process of this conversation being an open meeting, I think complicates that even a little further. So I think it's about what you want. If you want it to be conversational, then it should start conversationally, not with something coming from this body at this time. If it is a not negotiable offer, then we can go forward. I think it would be odd to have a discussion, an open meeting that discusses that the number may or may not be negotiable, and then go and make an offer. And when the person receiving that offer knows that the number is negotiable.
Yeah, it's a bit odd.
Right. You also might look at it in terms of, you do have the Milliman report that gives you a range. That document is a confidential document. I mean, you could discuss in terms of giving Commissioner Tate direction, whether you're comfortable in a range range to, is the Milliman report, is that a report that you're satisfied with? Do you feel like that's a range of salary that,
So Jody, you mentioned that we had all the data.
I think we're getting a little bit more here.
Yeah, I don't think we have an important piece of data, which is what John, what would make him happy and what he thinks he's worth. Now, that isn't dispositive, but, Kathy's talked about her experience that, she would tell them what her plan was or what she thought was appropriate. And this is what we've done. I would like to know what John thinks he's worth or thinks we should pay him before we make the final decision.
I'm comfortable with that. It's much more of a conversation, which I think is the relationship that we've had with John to date on the review. So I'm comfortable with that.
And I apologize that I did not have that conversation with him.
Kathy, we understand.
Yeah.
We understand you've been a little busy, so.
I know, but I could have made a phone call. I
think it's fine. So
I mean, it's gonna be retroactive. No matter what.
November 1 anyway, so.
Yeah.
So should we receive that data along with the report that Marcy's working on right now and close this meeting, or should we wait for Marcy to complete the work that she's doing to bring us that information right now?
Let me check to see how far along she is.
I'm okay waiting since we have to wait to make the decision anyway. We don't put Marcy into the gun.
Yes.
So
Right.
what would what is the understanding then of would be next steps? So let's say I go in next week and I meet with John and I prevent his evaluation and I asked to have a discussion around his salary. How does that get back to you and how does the decision get made? What is the next
We're
step?
gonna
for
have to
that?
schedule another meeting.
It seems to me in the past, that like when Commissioner Gormley and I had met with John and presented him with his review and John had told us, and John had presented a salary recommendation, then Commissioner Gormley and I came to just a regular commission meeting. We presented we let people know that we finished the review, and this was the recommendation that we were making for the salary. And then it was voted on, I think, or discussed and then voted on in a meeting. Is that right, Sam? Is that like last year?
Well, in every year, the salary decision has to be made in open meeting, one way or another.
So
It's
it
gonna
could
be,
occur in our next regularly scheduled meeting.
that's always been true.
Yeah,
And if we wanted to have any any other discussion about that prior to the next meeting, that would be like a special meeting or
We could have a special meeting, right?
so I guess that's our options is I talk to John, I get more information and find out where he's at, and then we either schedule a special session, because be an open session, right? Schedule a
So the next meeting, our next regularly scheduled meeting, John and I are going to a water session, for the US Conference of Mayors in San Diego. So
that's the 19th, Mayor.
Well, isn't our next, oh, I'm sorry, we'll be here. I was looking at the Thursday, not the Tuesday. No, we'll be here. Sorry, my bad.
That's fine.
Okay, I mean, that's only 2 weeks away, so that seems like it would be adequate time to schedule, have a conversation and come back as long as there's no concerns about having it on a regular business agenda, but I don't know why there would be. But if there are, now.
I don't have any concerns.
Okay,
So to clarify then, our plan is to have this discussion at the next meeting?
yeah, to finish the salary conversation at the next regularly scheduled meeting.
Okay.
And in the meantime, you would have met with John to
Yes.
review and get
Yeah.
his recommended salary.
And Sam, if I meet with John and I do his review and I receive a recommendation that he and I perhaps discuss, is it possible that information gets shared with the rest of the commission before we come into a meeting so that people can think about
Yes,
that?
we can do that. It will be a public record, but it's not one that we don't have to broadcast.
It's going to be public record at the meeting.
It will be.
Yeah, then Sam, we should not talk about that among ourselves
No,
until the meeting, right?
no.
But we
we're
can.
Correct.
taking a vote
Past
on
that.
Right.
Okay.
I just thought would you appreciate getting the
Yes, please.
information
Yes,
so
I
that
will.
you can think about it individually?
It has
Yeah.
a lot of zeros on it, right?
Yeah, that and the work that Marcy's doing right now.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah,
Okay,
so we can just get some information to you in the meantime.
all right.
Perfect.
Great.
Okay,
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Kathy.
thank you. And the meeting is adjourned at 5:32 PM.
Perfect. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.